Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Big Fat Video Blog. I am finally back from vacation. I got back in on Sunday night, and I had a lot of fun, ate pretty good food. Again, sorry for not being able to put, a whole bunch of video out while I was out, but we were really busy. Saw a bunch of family. I went to Washington, D.C., and just had a really good time. Had a weird thing that happened in Washington, D.C., though. My hotel room gave away my room, and that was a whole bunch of drama there. So, yeah, it was really great to see my family again, and fortunately, nobody said anything about my weight, so that was all really good. Um, so yeah, well, Happy New Year. This is my first video aside from the one that I posted that's being done in the new year. So hope y'all had a wonderful Happy New Year and did a lot of fun, ate a lot of stuff, or fed somebody else a lot of stuff, or just did whatever. Um, so today I kind of thought I've been, as you know, like in my other videos, I've been kind of like in a slump in terms of what to record for my videos. I've definitely been like, okay, where do I go with my blog? Like, people like the first content that I posted. What else can they like? I've covered really everything that I could think in regards to the gainer community as a whole. And I've actually had a few people message me regarding some really cool topics. And so, first, I want to thank you very much for these topic ideas, because for a while there I was like, well, maybe I should put the series on hiatus and not do that much, and maybe just do like them like once every quarter or every 2 months or so. But because of your suggestions, it has me thinking of a lot of really cool content that I haven't really thought of before. So I really appreciate that. So thank you a lot. So I'm thinking of doing a few things. So the first thing is I'm going to be doing a video on how to make like a breakfast. I actually make something that a friend of mine taught me about called French scrambled eggs, which is really good, and it takes forever to make, so it will be a video that will be in parts. But it's a lot of fun and it's really cool. I'm also learning some new Japanese cuisine from Enigma. So I've definitely like trying new things there. So that's been pretty cool. So I'm gonna definitely do some videos with that. Also, I am gonna go back to the thing I was talking about with doing some videos on like some of my interests and stuff. But this video was actually kind of an interesting request. I thought it was cool. So somebody wanted me to talk about dating. And for me, I guess I haven't had a really long history of varied relationships. I've had a long history of having long relationships that typically last several years. But I want to share what made my relationships that I had successful. I mean, I'm in one now, and I consider it successful, but my prior ones, I consider those also successful too. Everybody that I dated was really great in their own right, and everything, we just didn't fit well together. We didn't have a good combination together. So, or we just found out we were better friends or better best friends or whatever, compared to partners. So I just want to go over a little bit about my dating history. So first off, I did not have any boyfriends or girlfriends in high school. I was very socially inverted, introverted, not inverted, but introverted, and I didn't really talk to anybody. I was an artist type person, which is weird because I can't draw worth crap now. But I love to do things like graphic design. And I was a very typical emo kid. I was a huge stoner whenever I was in school. I hit it pretty well. I would go behind the bleachers, smoke cigarettes. I would wear black all the time. And actually, to this day, I actually wear a lot of black. And it's sort of like just stuck with me. It's like my favorite color. And I also loved, video games and stuff, And so for me, I really didn't have a like dating history. I really didn't even like socialize with a lot of people. So the fact that I even had friends was a miracle because I didn't really want to be bothered with people. I really just preferred to like stay in my own little bubble and I didn't want like anybody coming in at all. And so I guess that all sort of changed in around the year around 99 2000. I started to like hear that people were different. They were having relationships, and it wasn't like I wanted a relationship because I wanted to experience that. I wanted a relationship and I wanted to feel that sexual connection because I was jealous that other people had that and I didn't. In fact, I actually still to this day, in some aspects, kind of consider myself like gray sexual. Like typical like gay things don't really get me off as much. So like watching two guys fucking, that really doesn't do it for me. But talk to me about feeding me till I'm like 1 billion pounds, or doing that to another guy, or doing other things like S&M kind of things like that really gets me going. It's definitely one of those things where it's a very, and it's weird because I'm not much about power dynamics, but in terms of like feeder, feedy, that kind of stuff really gets me going. Especially, in the realm of like, sort of endangering your health or endangering someone's health. I would never like want somebody to do that because against their will, but like sexually, kind of it's definitely a fantasy for me. And as I've shared in other videos, I have some health problems related to gaining, and I have to do the best to mitigate the fantasy of it, of being a really big guy to having health problems. And sometimes you just kind of have to accept it a little bit as to what the cards you were given. But all that to be said, I really didn't date anybody. And then in about July of 2000, I was slowly coming out, and I was meeting people and I was talking to people, and I started to realize that I kind of really liked big guys. I had an incident when in that year where I slept over my best friend's house, and I woke up and I was laying my head on his belly. He was pretty big. He was probably like 310, 320, which at the time was like big to me. I never imagined I would be almost 40 pounds shy of 500 pounds, but I was like, wow, like this guy is really cute. But I don't think I'd put it together yet because in my brain I was like, ew, being gay is gross. Like, I was still growing up. I was very young. And I also grew up in Pittsburgh, which is at that time was a very conservative town. Like, if you were gay in school, like, you were ostracized, like, really bad. And so for me, I had to, like, not, illustrate that I was into that. And I really did, I kind of put it out of my mind. So I came out to my mom in 2002. Well, I'm sorry, in late 2001. And in 2002, I started experiencing the wonderful worldwide world. Can't talk today. Of the internet. And I actually started getting online probably around the end of 98. I came online during the part of the internet period where it was like just taking off. And it was the coolest thing in the world. Like, we had AOL, and AOL was really like the thing, and everybody was getting it. And, I still remember this day playing games online. My mom would, try to call and, a phone, and she'd be bitching at me to go. She's like, "Hey, get off the fucking phone in the other room," and we would yell at each other because I would, play like, solitaire with people online and some dumb stuff, which back then that was like so monumental, but in this age it wasn't. And so I guess why I'm bringing that all up is I did a lot of like online dating or online like meeting with people. I was really kind of socially introverted, like I said. So like talking to people in real life sucked, but talking to people online was the best thing ever because I didn't have to like deal with their facial interactions. I didn't have to deal with the awkward silence. Like, I just had to message people and I just had to wait for a response. And I could message like anybody on the face of the earth, and I'd be okay. And excuse me, what happened was there was a Yahoo chat groups for bigger guys, and I actually didn't really know about it that well. And one of my friends, I would go on a website called gay.com because back in the day there was gamer sites and there was like chubby chaser sites, but they weren't really like that much like that well known. So like for me, I was a chunky kid, like I was like stocky, but I was not the wonderful blimp I am today. And so for me, I was in this weird like, okay, I'm not really a chubby guy. I'm certainly not a chaser. And I'm also not really sure what the fuck I am. So I'm just going to go ahead and gay.com and go in Pittsburgh gay men chat. And that I went. And there was, your stereotypical, muscly guys, that really weren't into like, fat guys. And I took a real lame picture of myself with like a 3 megapixel camera that looked like it was taken like on CCTV, like everybody had back in the day. And I'm dating myself here, I'm so old. I went ahead and posted this picture, and I'm like, nobody's gonna look at this. And lo and behold, I got like a response the next day from this one guy who wanted to meet up at the local mall, and we met up, and that was my first crush. And he was really cute. I remember this, and I fell, in love with him, and I thought like, this is the person I'm gonna die with, and this guy's amazing or whatever. And it was a fun relationship that lasted a month. He was really, I think he liked stocky guys, but I don't think he liked being big. He also was like 3 years older than me. So I was, 17, or I think it was like 17, 18 at the time. And he was like older than me. And it was very evident that he was not, like, we were in different paths. Like, I was just graduating high school, and he was like just graduating from a certificate program to go into work. And so we were very different people. And so it didn't work, obviously. And I actually, met him several years later. We actually ended up working in the same area together, and he had like got gastric bypass and got super thin, and I was like, oh, that's so sad. But I'm really happy that he was able to find his own path in life. And I think last time I checked, he was with a partner, and they had been going strong for almost 8 or 9 years, and that was a decade ago. So I hope he's still doing well. But it was a really good and fun time. I enjoyed it, and I look back on those years as a time of like innocence where like giving a gift to somebody to make them happy made them excited, so it made me excited. Listening to a song on the radio with them with me I still remember the song that we would listen to. It was all these like new things that I never had experienced before. And I also was going through this part in my life where I was like growing up gay. So I was like experiencing gay culture in Pittsburgh, which you would think like is probably not really a thing. And to be honest, it's not. Like you don't see many like steel workers getting blown underneath a bridge, but it's a thing that actually it's a thing. Like there was a lot of people, especially in the 60s around the Andy Warhol era, a lot of people, doing stuff in the east end of Pittsburgh and everything. And it's really cool. And I wish there was a book I could share with you or something, like if I was that like thespian or whatever. But I don't have anything like that. I just know it has a really cool history, in Pittsburgh. But anyway, I digress. But what I learned from that relationship was that you can have a lot of fun, and it can be heartbreaking at the end of a relationship, but it can also make you stronger as a person. And I learned a lot from that. I learned to think about partners more in depth and more in detail and less of the emotion, which was really helpful. And then about 6 or 7 months later, I had met my first partner, who was my first real relationship, and we actually ended up moving in together after like probably like 6 months of knowing each other. And it was a fun relationship at the beginning, but then midway through I found out that I was a gainer and he was a chubby guy who wanted to lose weight. And yeah, that didn't quite go well, and it ended up being a semi-abusive relationship. And I say semi because there was love there, but there was also a lot of manipulation and a lot of unhappiness with each other. I know there were so many times we had the like breakup talk, which in several of my relationships I've had those, and at the end of every one of them we looked at each other and we just kept like saying like, why isn't this ending? Like this should have just ended a long time ago. Like what are we doing? And I think we had stayed together so long because we just financially had to. Like we knew that each other was not happy with the other one, and that no matter what we did, we could not fix it because of the fact that we were just so different sexually, like super different sexually. He wanted like a surfer bodybuilder kind of guy, and I wanted a guy who was like 5, 6, 700 pounds to like worship, and to help get me huge. Like it was very polar, and so it ended, and I was the one that ended it. To this day, I look back and again, like you learn with every relationship, I was extremely innocent, and I think like naive. I was naive, and I learned a lot from that experience. I learned that you never commingle your money. I learned that you have to be truly happy by yourself and not from buying stuff for others, because I went into a lot of debt. And you have to also learn that being truthful to yourself is the most important thing. Because if I was truthful to myself, I would have ended the relationship a long time ago, and we probably would have still been friends. So that was that. So I guess cut to my next relationship, which was actually, aside from my current relationship, the best relationship I've ever had. And that was the very first relationship I met on Belly Builders. And his name is Enigma, and he goes by Joey. Some of you may know him out there. He's a fantastic guy. I know I've said this in other videos. We hang out all of the time, even after we'd known each other for over 10 years, and we were divorced in 2015. We are still to this day like best friends. Like if something is wrong, my partner's here, but if something is wrong and my partner is not here, or I just want to talk to somebody and Maybe I need another opinion from what my partner has, because we always have that, like we have our wives or our husbands that gives us a idea, and we're just like, oh no, we're gonna see what my friend Bob says down the bar. That's kind of Joey for me. He's one of those people that I totally go to when I'm having some type of crisis and I just want a second opinion. And for me, like, meeting him was the coolest thing, and I'll tell you how I did it. And I don't know if this would work for you, but all of my partners I met online. So first off, I want you to know that if you're going to this video for advice, I met them all online. And my first thing is I wasn't afraid. So I think the first thing is that if you're going to do dating, you cannot be afraid. You have to realize, if you're afraid, you have to use that fear to help drive yourself to find a friend. Because at the end of it, you're really just trying to meet a friend. And hopefully that friendship evolves into something else. But at the end of the day, you're really just trying to find a special friend in your life that you want to meet. So it's just like meeting any other kind of friend. So first off, met all of them online. Second off, I did a lot of, dating in terms of getting to know them over the phone. I know sometimes long-term dating is hard, and I think a lot of my friends do LTRs partially because, if you're living in a rural area, the probability of a gainer living next to you, if you're a gainer or an encourager living next to you, is pretty slim. No pun intended. So you have to do the online dating thing. And so I guess my secret to online dating is you have to really stick with it. So you have to be loyal to each other. You have to stick with it. I think you also have to definitely just be mindful that the other person has, desires, feelings, their own schedule. And you have to be understanding if the other person ends up sleeping with somebody else, but yet they're still wanting to be with you and they're still wanting to be loyal, cut people some slack. I mean, you guys are both miles away. Just because the other person had sex with somebody else doesn't mean they don't love you. I would say that if it's something that isn't talked about, where both of you haven't come to the agreement that, like, I want to sleep with other people, and you're doing it behind each other's backs, then that's a different story. But I would say if it happens once, things happen to people, Now, everybody's situation is different, so all that to be said, I just think that sex is sex. People are going to do what they want to do. But that should be a discussion that you and your partner should have, because I think it's individual to every partner. So I think for me, keeping a long-term relationship before I actually moved in, even though I was dating online, was extremely crucial. When I met Joey, I lived in Pittsburgh, and I actually was graduating from my associate's degree in liberal arts, and it was at a perfect time. Actually, the very next month, I was ready to graduate from school, and meeting him was like the perfect time. And how we met is I wrote an article on Belly Builders about health and how gainers should take care of their health. And here are ways that gainers can take care of their health. Because I was a medical assistant, and I still have a lot of that knowledge. And he got the article, and he read it, and he reached out to me. He was like, I think this article is really cool. Let's talk about it more. And we ended up realizing we had a lot in common. And I visited him for Thanksgiving one year. We were together for a while. We talked a lot, and like a week after, I was like, I want to move to Seattle. And I did. I fucking moved to Seattle. It was the scariest experience in my life. I remember, like, my family and even my workplace that I worked at, they all knew that this was happening. And they're like, you're going to move back here in a year or 6 months. One girl in the office was like, oh, honey, I'll keep your seat warm because you're going to be back here in 2 weeks, or whatever. And that's been some bet that she lost, because it has been almost 13 years, and I have not moved back to Pittsburgh. So I'm so sorry that she lost that bet, but yeah, that was that. So, and then, we were together for almost, I want to say probably 5 or 6 years. We were like, things went really well until things weren't. We started to realize like we just had different interests. We wanted certain things out of life that each other, didn't want. And I also was extremely immature. I was naive still. I didn't really have a lot of time by myself. I didn't get a chance to really learn about the world. And, I think at the end of that experience, I wanted to, you know, it was really, when that relationship failed, it was a sign that, Mark, you need to grow up. That's really what that was about, was like, because I was horrible. Like, I look back at myself in that relationship and I'm like, God, you sucked, because I was just so whiny about everything. Like things had to be a certain way, or I'd get upset, or I'd be asked to do chores and I would get frustrated. It was just like little things that I look back and I'm like, man, you were such a little bitch. But I think when I lost Joey as a partner, it was a huge wake up call that, you need to get your life together. You need to learn how to love people and learn how to respect yourself. So I think the thing that I learned in that relationship is I learned about listening. I learned about the fact that that definitely your partner matters in all different kinds of senses. And I think also with him, I learned that the world is bigger than we could ever think it is. And I say that because I thought Pittsburgh was so big. And when I moved out here to Seattle and I met him, his family, my coworkers, everybody that I knew out here, people that I knew online from gaming with them online, it developed my entire social network. And the world became bigger than it ever was. And, I became part of the gainer community more. I met wonderful people that lived out here. And as a result of that relationship, that leap of faith that I took moving out here, my life has been awesome. I'm not trying to gloat, but I love my life. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I took a leap of faith back in 2007, and it made me the person that I am today. So I think the other biggest thing that I learned out of that relationship that I would give to anybody out there is don't be scared to take that leap of faith. It may end up in disaster. You may end up getting hurt, and it might be awful, but that leap of faith is just so crucial. And sometimes you just have to do it and not think about it. And so after Joey and I broke up, I spent a few years like not dating anybody and really just not finding out what I wanted to do. And then I had an online relationship, and that didn't work, but he was still really nice, and we didn't end up staying in contact, but we ended it amicably. And then I had just a real quick relationship here that didn't work. And then I met my current partner. And my current partner, we actually have a funny story. My current partner and I actually met at Gainer Camp, which is a thing that was up here in Seattle, and it ran up here in the early 2010s from a guy named Tip the Scales. And it was a really cool concept. This guy opened his house to 10 or 12 gainers, and he had 2 assistants that helped him, and they did all kinds of cool things. Like, it was a way to make people that were gainers comfortable with being a gainer and being away from like judgmental family. And I remember like him at the party, and I remember shaking his hand and meeting him. But that was really it. Like the key thing that I remembered about him is there was this like chocolate cake eating thing at like Claim Jumpers, which is a restaurant for Yunnan, like Pacific Coast people. And he like ate like these two giant pieces of cake from Claim Jumpers, and that was the biggest thing that I remember with him. And he also was one of the people that attended that like gained the most weight while they were there, and I was like, that's amazing, you know. And then I didn't hear like anything from him. We never talked. And one day out of the blue, he asked me a question about, you know, relationships. And I started talking to him, and we started to realize how much we actually had in common with what we wanted from a relationship. And in March of 20, or in February of 2016, he came out and he visited me, and we were together for a week, and it was like a really fun experience. We just had such a good time. Like, we didn't really have everything interest-wise in common, but we started to realize that our chemistry together just really clicked. Like, it was really just like natural, you know. And then I don't know, like right towards the end there, I was like, I think I'm going to take another leap of faith, and do you want to move in with me? And it was very scary because we were dating for probably like 6 months on the phone, and we met each other a few times, and you know, it was a kind of a scary experience to be like, okay, like you're gonna uproot yourself and come on out here if you'd like to. And everybody, again, his family, my friends that I had at the time, everybody was like, this isn't gonna work, you're crazy, you're insane, whatever. And we are still together this day. 4 years later, almost 4 years later. So I guess these two relationships that I had were really good. And I think this relationship has taught me to be more open with communication. If your partner isn't communicating, you need to help them learn how to communicate with you. And we still struggle with things. I think, like, you know, we get into fights, you know, over the dumbest shit, like, you know, oh, you didn't pick up your clothes this morning, you know, or whatever. Or on his end, like, maybe I nag him a little too much. But you know, I think that it's been good, and it's been wholesome, and it's been fun, and I love seeing him every day. And I think I just, right now in my life, I feel incredibly blessed as far as my support system. I have amazing friends and family, both biological and who I call my Seattle family. I've got great coworkers. I've got a fantastic mom. I just, you know, am really blessed. So, anyway, my phone is telling me it's running out of space. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, me sharing my experiences with you. I hope you may have learned something, which is to take a leap of faith even though it's scary. And thanks for enjoying story time with me. And yeah, so next week is going to be a fun video. My partner's going to join me, and we're going to talk about like some fun gainery things, and you know, little things that you can do if you're like your partner's with you, and how to like manage conflict and all that stuff. So that's going to be I think a really fun video. So yeah, so please stay tuned with me over the next year. I'm going to plan on doing content. Like I said, may not always be super regular, but it will be there, and I will put it out when I can. So thank you so much. I hope you have a good weekend, and I will talk to you all next week. Bye.